Well, I know a lot of us cats have been waiting for the silver ship to be coming in. You know, we're sitting out here on the dock saying, when the hell is this damn stuff going to be going up? It's not been going up a long time. Now, actually, with the depression of oil prices, that could be an indication that the silver's going to stay down a long time. But I'm going to tell you this, expect the unexpected. Not that you should bank on it another 100% like running leverage or that type of way, but you should bank on it with the physical silver. Don't put all your money into silver, but you also want to hedge your strategies. Like silver's not just, when you're talking about silver coin, you're talking about something that's actually a little bit of a unique investment that's outside the banking system. But, it's also something where you hold it physically. There's a couple other things out there you probably should hold physically besides silver coin. Just emphasize on stacking silver coin all the time. But while you're waiting for the ship to come in, you might be looking at some other areas. The thing is, though, that our attentions are actually diverted a lot of times in the everyday world, and there's a lot of underlying things that go on, and, it's not good to actually get too deeply engrossed in the conspiracies and things, but they're true. They're true. And, part of the reason we hold silver coin is because of some of the underlying things that are going on behind the world. It's, in other words, we get distracted in our daily lives. We don't really think about these things that go on behind the scenes, but they're true as a heart attack, So we all know that, pretty much in politics, politicians are pretty much, the head politicians are pretty much chosen by big business. But, we don't think about these things all the time. It's not good to dwell on this because it's better to dwell on distractions, that's what I believe anyway. But, one of those things out there was skull and bones. The symbology for skull and bones was actually, their numbers 322. I just want to reemphasize that. Even 322, March 22nd, is 1980. That was the supposed build date of the Georgia Guidestones, when they were started, when they were erected. That's what it says right on them, And if you look at the Georgia Guidestones, it seems like they got some really bad plans for the human race. But, the thing is, that don't mean it's going to have to occur that way. But, what I'm telling you is when you're keeping silver's one of those things is kind of like part of the bag of tricks you need for survival. And, it's not like, I don't want to make this into like a big drama thing, but, the way I look at things, I keep things in my peripheral vision, and I don't necessarily focus on it like, oh, God, there's something coming up, and I don't like putting out stuff where, it tries to scare people for views. But, a lot of these conspiracy theories aren't theories, Skull and Bones, talking about the fairly secretive society out of Yale that's, fraternity, and it's later, that's not a freshman fraternity, but in the later years of Yale, most of her leaders come from Skull and Bones. But, what I'm pointing out here is that, there's nefarious plans for the future. Now, these guys have been getting thwarted, too. But, what I'm saying is expect the unexpected. There's always a chance that things can change radically in the markets overnight. And what I'm looking at is some common sense things because, even going back to, if you look at some of these secret societies, I keep a peripheral vision out on some of the garbage that was like even portrayed back in the Egyptian times because, during those times, a lot of this symbology I don't think was just picked out of the air, I think there's a lot more to do with, if you look at some of these structures that we had way in ancient times like the pyramids, the Pyramid of Giza, the Great Pyramid of Giza, some of the stuff that predated the Mayan Indians over here in in America, it's not in the United States, but in Mexico. It's predated the Indians, actually. We couldn't have built this stuff. I don't know how humans could have built it. So I think there's a lot of crazy shit going on that we don't know. And there's a lot of power struggles that are going on that can totally upset the apple cart in the world, that day-to-day world that we see every day. Now, silver has been money all the way back. That's one thing. Even like before it was coined, gold was considered to be the skin of the ancient Egyptian gods, but their bones were of silver. A lot of people don't know that. And that's one of the things I'm kind of looking at this way. It's old school. Now, as far as the price going up in U.S. greenback dollars, I will not be afraid to sell, if other prices are depressed, because I think the whole key to silver going up is the oil prices. The thing is, I don't know when these oil prices are going to go up, but they could go up at any time, believe me, because there's it's only going to take one major event in the Middle East to freaking send oil up through the roof. And we just don't know when it's going to happen, but I think there's one last freaking super bull run in oil. And, overall, though, oil is on the way out. It's definitely on the way out. Even the Rockefellers are pretty much, going into alternative energy. And, if you look even in California, California is leading the nation in electric cars. And, pretty much any trend that happens in California pretty much spreads to the rest of the nation. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. It depends on what it is. But, oil's basically on the way out long term. But in the meantime, as far as what the military uses, actually like the U.S. Navy uses mainly oil, and they're one of the biggest buyers of crude oil to fuel their, the U.S. military. They're starting to actually change over to some of the tech. They're going to be changing over to saltwater technology, just like I presented one of those videos on the saltwater cars recently. They're going to start changing over to that technology, but it ain't going to happen overnight, man. It's definitely on the way out, but there's going to be one last super spike left in oil, and that's really when your silver's going to go way the hell up, and it's going to go way up, way beyond what it's supposed to. Now, this is a map of Iraq. Actually, this is an area that ISIS is being bombed, if you look at this red area. Now, there have been incursions into Saudi Arabia down here. There was actually a major, it didn't actually, the people that try to get into Saudi just recently, they did kill some of the border guards. They also killed the general of Saudi, one of the generals of Saudi that was in charge of guarding the border. They actually killed him, right? But it made Saudi think, hey, we got to build this massive fence along this 600-mile border with Iraq. But I'm thinking, they ain't going to build this fence right away. But, ISIS also realizes this. They're getting hurt the most by these low oil prices, right? And I'm leading up to something here. Any successful attack they have on Saudi, it doesn't have to be, like, militarily successful. It just has to be successful in hitting some of their oil infrastructure. If they do any of that, that brings the price of oil up, and guess what happens? It will bring up more money into their coffers because they're selling oil. Now, I know the U.S. military is trying to strike ISIS, when their refineries and knock them out, and they are very much succeeding. But, if I was in the shoes of ISIS, I'd be thinking top priority is not to try to defeat Saudi militarily. You're not ever going to do that in a million years. All you got to do is knock out some of their oil fields or oil refineries or set some of their pipelines on fire, which would raise the price of oil, which would bring a lot more revenue into the coffers of ISIS. And I think that's obvious. I mean, it's pretty much an obvious strategy. So things can change really fast, man. Really, really fast. And it doesn't take much to change the situation. As a matter of fact, today when we were looking at these damn oil prices being so low, it's like, it's good in a way. It's, it's trying to, help. It's actually helping the U.S. consumer. It's actually helping the GDP of the, the USA and everything. But, the thing is that it's quite obvious that the tensions in the Middle East, where they're punishing ISIS through, and Iran through this. In other words, Saudi's actually has enemies all over the place now. They got enemies in Iraq. They got enemies in Iran. They got enemies. They always had enemies on their southern border. So it's not going to take much to freaking change the whole scenario. Now, I also want to point out, I want to go over here a little bit in left field a little bit, because I talked a little bit about the Illuminati and I'm going to kind of diverge on this update a little bit. Actually in the major media, they talked about having bases on, or civilizations from Earth go on Mars. They're talking about this in the major media. Now, maybe this could be a separate update or whatever, but I'm going to tell you this. There's been military that have alleged that we've already been to Mars, there's been colonies on Mars, and shit that happened zillion years ago that destroyed Martian civilizations that probably lived there thousands of years ago. And it's all conjecture. I'm not really into this crap. And, I'm not into aliens. I don't talk to aliens or nothing like that. But I'm telling you that some of this stuff that sounds really crazy to the average person might be true. And I'm going to tell you that, it all relates to how fast things can change in the world. Expect the unexpected. What I'm looking at, though, is like we had this situation actually with the pyramids got destroyed, and you see like all these all the stones on the outside are gone. They say, yeah, they used that to build Cairo with. Well, it's also alleged that these were actually blown outward, and what happened was they picked up the stones that were on the ground that were blown outward, and they built Cairo with it, right? But that might have happened way back when, thousands and thousands of years ago, maybe 10,000, 13,000 years ago. That's probably when this occurred. There's some allegations out there that's when Mars was destroyed by some kind of crap that went on. But I want to tell you, though, the elite got plans that when you're looking at going back to these damn Georgia Guidestones and shit, I don't think they're going to be successful because I don't really give a shit about elite, man. I'd eat them for fucking dinner, literally. But when you're going back to these Georgia Guidestones, the number one stone on here is to bring the population down to 500 million or below, in harmony with nature. With all their bullshit genetic engineering and all that kind of crap, you know what their plans are. To have like a super duper race of humans inhabit the earth, like the Nazis wanted, right? That's what they're looking to do. But I always know this: any freaking egomaniac know-it-all never knows more than the people they lead. They really don't. As long as the people that they think they're leading stand on their own 2 feet and think for themselves, the team overcomes any individual elitist. That's the way it is. So the reason you got silver is one of your part of your strategies to stand on your feet financially. Right now, it's not too good for going things. But when things go tough, it's going to be a matter of it's going to be one of the few things around here that is money, because it's been money going all the way back to the freaking before there was even coins out. There used to be metals out they used to trade that were maybe jewelry that just contained some silver. Some silver. In other words, they were considered that the bones of the gods, of the Egyptian gods, were made of silver. It's always been worth something. Now, there's other things out there that are actually really good for trade, and that is food, long-term storage food, and booze. Actually, if you look recently, bourbon's been going on a tear recently because it's been, I don't know why. I don't know why the hell it has been, but it's been going up a lot over the last several years. That would have been a hell of an investment. But the time is going to come for silver, too, and you just don't know when. Because I think the complexity of the financial, hegemony that's controlling us is actually going to implode upon itself. It doesn't take much. As a matter of fact, one of the things that could really screw up finance in the United States is the infrastructure of the grid itself. The United States grid is actually rated at D. A lot of people don't realize that. It's just kind of right above fail level. And, it's not going to take a whole hell of a lot to bring down enough sections of the grid to freaking cause widespread panic in the financial system, whereby people will be saying, where the hell's my money? I can't get online, or the banking system's down in certain areas. That would be enough to people freaking wake up, and there'd be a widespread panic into physical things that are regarded as money, like silver. So that's all it takes. And, even with all the freaking deal with, to keep your eyes open for the unexpected. I mean, don't count on the unexpected. Don't count on miracles. But, what I'm saying is, this could happen. History's nothing but a long chain of events. They don't write down the whole hum. They only write down in history the unexpected. So it's like expect the unexpected. Silver's like a hedge. It's not necessarily a total get rich thing, but it's one of those things that keep you to standing on your feet. There's a lot of wacky shit that's going on. I kind of look at some of the stuff that's out there on the fringe with an oblique eye, and even the ancient technologies, how the hell they built freaking pyramids way back when with sticks and stones and stuff. It seems to be pretty impossible when they can't even do it with the modern cranes today. Something fishy going on here, man. I don't know exactly what. It's like you could say they didn't do it the way they say in the history books, but it tells me there's a lot of stuff out there that they ain't telling you. So keep your eyes open in some ways. Don't be fearful. The cat's a little fearful. Maybe the cat's fearful, but I'm not fearful. But just want to say that even like with some of the facts out there, like if you're looking at some of the facts with silver right now, there's an oversupply. That may not mean nothing compared to, why the price can go up. That might not mean a damn thing. Because you know what? It gave you maybe a poor example, but it's an example that could be applied to anything. You can look at how much plastic was out there at the time hula hoops were made. But everybody had to have hula hoops. Where the bottleneck's going to be in silver? Finished coins. That's always been the problem. Even when the price was going up, they said, hey, there's plenty of silver out there in the mines. Price was going up, going up, going up. But what the problem was? There wasn't enough finished coins out there. And the desirable coins are the ones that are actually put out by the U.S. government mints and the Austrian mints and the Canadian mint. Those are the coins that people want. It don't matter how much silver's in the ground or how many bars of silver's in the mine. It's usually where the bottleneck's going to be is in finished product. Finished product can freaking change radically. But I just want to point out that there's a lot of crazy things going on right now in our world. And, some of the technology I think is going to change drastically. I think 50 years from now, you're never going to, it's going to be so drastically changed. I think fossil fuels will be freaking, or whatever you want to call them, oil, is not going to be the main thing that's going to be used for transportation and manufacturing. There's going to be a lot of other technologies out there. There's probably be hydrogen split, crack from water or whatever. But I think they know this stuff. They've known this stuff for years. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of hidden technologies that make me think that, there's probably a lot more space exploration going on in secret than we even know about. There's a lot of other stories out there, floating around on YouTube, but, I can't verify stuff. But I did notice, though, that the major media and some of the biggest, business mongols out there have talked about colonizing Mars with 1 million inhabitants and just to have people live there in case something happens on the Earth. And, I almost kind of think about that. I say to myself, when they're talking about that openly as a plan for the future, sometimes that's indication they already got some crap going. That's pure conjecture. But sometimes they drop you hints, man. They drop you hints. As a matter of fact, NASA's already they're openly talking about going to Venus. Like something's going to happen over here. And I say to myself, maybe. Because one thing I've noticed that is going on, it seems to happen it's like I'm not going to hold my breath on this, but, I'm like an all-round type person that I don't get into prepping every day like, oh, the sky's going to fall, but I kind of do like little stupid things here and there to kind of set up a little reserve for something. Silver's part of that deal. But I know many thousands of years ago, a lot of things happened even in Egypt that caused these stones to blow off the side of the pyramids. Now, when we look at what's going on today in the weather and stuff, if you look at 2030, Adapt 2030, they had snow in Vietnam. Vietnam, man, I think it was almost a foot. Vietnam. Don't happen too often there, like every 100 years or some shit. They're talking about the dark sun. We're getting into a colder climate. It's going to create a lot of weird situations and a lot of weird tensions that are going on, and I think it's going to create a lot of fight for resources. So, I always say expect the unexpected. And, the guys on the top, they know what's going on. They do. They're not telling anybody. But what I say is this. I don't like playing these kind of videos too much with the crazy stuff, but this is crazy shit I just put out in this video. This is some crazy shit. But it's not that crazy when you freaking dig into history, and it's too long of a subject to get into. I could make 50 freaking 1 hour videos on this damn thing and get into all kinds of shit. But the thing is, it's not doing you much good. What I always say is to expect the unexpected, because you don't know what the future is, period. Even if you know every little detail about every little stupid thing that there is that happened before, you don't know the future. Even these yo-yos that are coming from the skull and bones, they don't know the future. And the problem is, we got the monkey wrench that's throwing it, and we got the sand that's throwing it in the wheels for their devious plans. So, that's why you hang on to silver, man. It's part of the iron core rock of your strategy for, something that could possibly go wrong. But in the meantime, don't worry about it and stay distracted, and don't freaking worry about every little stupid thing, because it's not worth it. So that's my other point. But you got silver as a hedge, as a backstop. That's why you should also have food, firepower, and fuel, and even booze for trading. But, I think this situation is going to change pretty rapidly, because the debt bomb in all these nations, like the U.S. is now over $18 trillion in debt. And, Obama's getting out of office, and he's saying, that jerk, he went into office like he was going to save the middle class. Man, he killed the middle class, man, that jerk. You know what I mean? Why? Because he's Uncle Tom Obama. That's why I don't like any of them, actually. They're all screwed up. Bush, Clinton, Obama, even Reagan was a load of shit. He was all up the ass of freaking big oil, big to the max. You don't need any of these yo-yos, man. That's why, when I'm preaching silver, what I'm really preaching is this. Hardcore independence, man. That's what I'm preaching. I don't really preach silver per se. I preach hardcore independence, which means you could do things with tools. You know how to do things, electric, plumbing, the whole damn thing. Your roofing. You know how to build with carpentry. You know how to do everything. And you don't worry about every little stupid thing, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, purple hair is something to freaking keep attention to versus what's going on with the crazy shit in the world, But you got to keep an oblique eye out for it and not put the blinders on, too. Now, I did a couple crazy things in this update because I figured, I want to call attention to. There's a lot of wacky shit out there that may be true. Aliens, ancient technologies, underground bases, nefarious plans of the elite, freaking maybe even bases on other planets that NASA has that we don't even know about. I don't know. Who the hell knows, man? Secret survivors of the Nazi regime that live in Antarctica. I don't know. There's all shit out there, man. But, you don't want to get involved in every little giddy rumor out there. It's like you just got to kind of keep an oblique eye out for some of that crap. Look, I never came in contact with it, If I did, I'd probably shoot it. You know what I mean? Not the purple hair chick, but a Nazi. But you know what I'm talking about? So, don't worry about it. But the moral of the story is expect the unexpected. Because you never know what's going to happen, man. You never know. You're sitting out there like with all the other cats waiting on a dock. When's this ship going to come in? This damn ship's not going to come in. Nothing's going to happen. Hey, man, I don't know. Stupid ship can come in. And that's when you jump on, man. You say, here's my silver. I'll take some greenbacks. And you buy some other stuff with it, But actually, in the long term, I would never sell all silver. Not 100%. You should keep a little hedge. You should always keep a little hedge. Why? Why? Because basically gold was considered to be the skin of the ancient Egyptian gods, but their bones were of silver. I mean, is that a good enough reason? You want to keep some of them Egyptian god bones around, right? Just a few anyway. So, skull and bones and the bones of the Egyptian gods. Anyway, it's the counter to the bones of the Egyptian gods is actually the counter to the skull and bones. Just remember that too. So anyway, kind of just diverged on this because I'm probably going to get some more updates about some other things I got. I was at the, because I work as an accountant with a CPA firm, and it's like I am privy to a lot of other things. But, if you know exactly what's going to happen you'll have a gazillion dollars. But I've always been of the opinion that this bullshit fluff society we live in with all its fancy technology is going to have a major freaking reset problem. So, I definitely keep 1.5 feet in the old school tech all the way. I don't trust none of this newfangled bullshit. So, you know what? Silver's old school. So, there you go.